What's going on, world? It's your main man, Kareem A. Rashid, the voice and your host of Clearing the Wreckage. We got another great episode in store for you today. Yes. Once again, I don't know what you got going on if you're driving to work. Please pay attention to the road. You could already be at work and you could be taking a lunch break trying to get a sneak peek in on this episode. Make sure you get back to work on time, please. And you might be just sitting on the toilet somewhere, at home, at work, at a friend's house, I don't know. But just make sure you flush. Yes. What's going on, world? What is happening with you, world? We got another great episode in store for you today. I want to say this first of all. Thank you for listening and tuning in to Clearing the Wreckage podcast. We are growing. We are doing that as humans anyway, right? On this journey. If you're on this journey with me, we are clearing the wreckage together. And then secondly, this podcast is growing. People are knowing about this podcast because of you. It ain't got nothing to do with me. It's because of you. It's because you're listening and you're sharing it. You're downloading and you're letting your friends know, your coworkers, your loved ones. Hey, man, you should listen to Clear the Wreckage. I just want to give you a hand clap real quick. Woo! And I also want to say thank you again. And I would love for you to continue doing that. As I shared last week, the accomplishment of over 100 downloads. Do you know that I only been doing this podcast for 2 months? I put my first episode out January 31st. For real. And already 100 podcast downloads. That is awesome. That is so exciting. I'm excited about this journey. Thank you for being here with me. If you are a first-time listener, thank you so much for tuning in with me. I do suggest, though, that you go to the first episode. Because this episode 14, can you believe it? Ooh. Go to that first episode because I am telling the story, my story, that is still being written. That's right. It's not over. It's not finished. The journey continues of clearing the wreckage day to day, one day at a time. For sure. So let's go ahead and dig in. What we going to talk about today, Kareem? Well, we're going to talk about clearing the wreckage, doggone it. What you think? I reckon that's what we're going to talk about today, sonny boy. We're going to talk about clearing the wreckage, ain't we? That's for sure. Come on here and sit on Papa's lap. Let me tell you a story of how I took the time to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear. Yes, indeed. Man, I love being funny, man. I love laughing. I love having a sense of humor. I love making light of situations. I enjoy it. I enjoy my personality. Back then, I did not know who I was. I did not enjoy my personality. I barely had a personality. I was escaping everything. But you already know that. Because if you've been here on this journey with me, you already know. I escaped so much because I did not want to look at myself. And truthfully, that's all it was. I didn't want to look at myself. I didn't want to look at my past. I didn't want to deal with it. I just rather sex, drugs, rock and roll. Sex, drugs, rock and roll all day, all night long. That is what I did for years upon years. Until about age 32. Is when I decided I need to clean my act up. And I did. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. Today, we're going to kind of talk about, so last week I talked about those emotions that were easily suppressed, right? Because of how I was raised. And I talked to a lot of the men. I know I got so many female listeners, and I'm so happy about that. And I want to apologize that last episode wasn't necessarily, catered to you. And I apologize. I know it was really, a lot of it was catered to men. But I appreciate y'all, and I'm not going to apologize again because I'm so used to doing that. I don't want you to be upset. I still want you to listen, you know what I mean? Anyway, boy, that's some wreckage right there. Did you just hear that? That right there is wreckage that just came out of my freaking mouth. Out of my mouth. Still learning to accept myself fully, right? Because if I accept myself fully, I don't really need your acceptance. I ain't got to be begging for your approval, but I just did. Oh boy, I'm a shrimp. Anyway, so today I want to dive in just a little bit more on that topic about emotions being suppressed, but for the most part, I want to talk about how that created more wreckage inside of me that I didn't know about until I went to the psychiatrist and I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. With that being said, so PTSD is something that can happen to anybody. In fact, there's a study done that says over 70% of adults experience at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. Another study done that 1 in 3 people will develop PTSD at some point in their life. Wow, isn't that something? So let's keep that in mind while this episode is going on, okay? Now let's move on to how PTSD affected me and how it created wreckage that I had no idea, no inclination. You know why I had no idea? Because I was like, I'm on the run. I'm on the run. I don't want to face myself. No. I just came up with that. That's a little song, a jingle. I came up with that. Maybe that should be a jingle at the beginning of the episode. Oh, I'm on the run. I'm on the run. I don't want to face myself. Oh, no. For real, so, man, that's what I did. I did not want to face myself. However, I was experiencing, even when I was suppressing my emotions, escaping through drugs, alcohol, and sex, drugs, rock and roll, escaping through that life. I was escaping because I was experiencing so many symptoms of not only emotions that were just trying to surface up, right? Resurface, but so many symptoms of PTSD. So many that I did not know that they were symptoms of that until I took the time to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear. So that the wreckage can begin to clear. Yeah, man. So until I took the time to look inside, until I got sober, really, and I started, journaling and doing the things I needed to do, I was able to take some time to look inside. And I saw this wreckage and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should see a psychiatrist. So let's start from there. I got diagnosed with PTSD. Let's talk about what post-traumatic stress disorder is. Let's break down each word in PTSD. Let's start with the P. Post. What does post mean? Post means after or behind. No, we're not talking about posting something up on social media. I know that's what you're so used to posting, but we ain't talking about that. We're just talking about what the word post means. It means after or behind. Truly, it's just another word for past, basically. Traumatic. Well, something traumatic is something that comes from trauma. That the traumatic part of it, what makes it traumatic, is the pain or the wound or the puncture or the distress, right? So traumatic could be psychological pain. It could be a wound to the body produced, by a physical injury. It could be distress to the mind or one's emotions. Check. That was me. And it usually comes from a disastrous event outside of usual experience. So let's just say, rape, abuse, car accidents. Traumatic. That is very traumatic. Stress. Well, what is that? What is stress? It is physical, mental, or an emotional strain that disturbs one's normal bodily functions. And I'm saying this so that while I'm doing this episode, tick, tick, I remember, you heard my little indicator, tick, tick, it's inside my head to go a little bit deeper about stress in this episode, and I will. All right, and then we have disorder. AKA wreckage. I mean, disorder is self-explanatory. Lack of order, dude. Lack of order. Something that's rearranged and is not the same. It is out of its regular arrangement, out of its regular form. So with that being said, my brain was out of its regular functioning form when I, at 12 years old, was like, boop, ooh, I want to drink some alcohol and I like it, so let's keep going. I stunted the growth of my prefrontal cortex. I talked about that in episode 9. My cerebral cortex, my freaking amygdala, every part of my brain was like, hold up, bro, we ain't growing no more. We got 13 more years to grow. What you doing? Yep. That's what I did to myself. Whoo, man, you want to talk about wreckage and disorder. That's exactly what I caused in my brain. Also, I just want to share with you that people who have PTSD will often experience co-occurring conditions. Well, what's co-occurring? So the PTSD is occurring and there's something that's occurring with it. And those conditions normally consist of substance abuse, check, depression or anxiety. Remember I told you when I went to see the psychiatrist, he didn't just diagnose me with PTSD. He diagnosed me with depression and anxiety as well. Yeah, so I had all those things going on the inside of me. But I was taught not to share my emotions, not to express my feelings. So all this stuff was building up on the inside of me. All of this wreckage, just all of it, continued to remain inside of me. And we talked about the definition of wreckage. When I say wreckage, just think about remains. Think about parts that are remaining, unwanted parts that don't need to be there. Crap. Think about that. So let's talk about some of the things that I experienced, some of the symptoms or the feelings that I was experiencing of PTSD that I was escaping from by escaping toward a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Oh, man. One of them was difficulty concentrating. I barely could concentrate on things. Another one was having so many sleep disturbances, could never fall asleep. I was also hypervigilant. I also had negative feelings about myself constantly. So let's dive in shortly in a second about some of those symptoms even more, what those symptoms are. There's about 19 to 20 symptoms that I'm going to list. And when I list them, I'm going to say check if I experienced it. And that is one of the things that made me, after I took the time to look inside, that's what made me go, hey, I need to see a psychiatrist. Something's going on up there in my noggin. Something is going on in my noggin. I react differently when somebody scares me. My startle response is extremely, it's almost like I'm dying. When somebody scares me, I feel like I am having a freaking cardiac panic attack. A panic attack when someone scares me. And people used to always laugh at me because of that. And they used to scare me even more because they knew that I will get extremely startled. Which was not a game to mess with me about, by the way. It was not a cool game, but people did it throughout my life. But why you get so scared? Why you jump? Why you get so scared? What's wrong with you? Man, until I got sober and clean and I took the time to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear, I realized so the wreckage can begin to clear, not clear. That's when I realized, man, why? Why? What's going on up there? Because I go and scare somebody, they don't react like me. They don't respond like I do. Something's going on. So anyway, with that being said, why does Kareem have PTSD? You're probably wondering. We're talking about PTSD. The psychiatrist diagnosed me that. Why is that wreckage there? Why do I have PTSD? And this is so hard to talk about because this is personal. So it's hard to talk about. So let me throw out a disclaimer right now. A disclaimer that there is no one in my family that I am discrediting, I am dishonoring, I am defaming, I am putting in a bad light at all. When I state these things, I am simply sharing my experience. My experience could be different from theirs. I am simply just sharing mine and the wreckage that was caused from it. Okay? Because I've invited you in on this journey and we're here now. So we're going to talk about it. One of the events, traumatic events that happened to Kareem when he was a kid, I know I'm talking in third person. When I was a kid, I used to get awakened in the middle of the night, in the middle of my slumber, by punches to my face and my body. I'm pausing so that we can all just digest that, what I just said. I'm also pausing so I can show some empathy to myself and some grace to my own self and compassion toward my own self. But also that you can maybe show some compassion and empathy toward me. Also want that to sink in a little bit. I was just a kid. I'm not talking about, 20 years old, an adult, or 21. I'm not even talking about 18. I'm talking about this started when I was a kid and went on for years. This started when I was a little kid. So disturbing just to think about, because I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want anybody to know anything like that about me. I told you on the last episode how I have an issue trusting people. I'm scared. I have this fear that people will leave me, so I don't want to let them in. And here I am right now on this podcast, and on this episode, I am letting you in, and it is so scary. It's scary. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to let you in on that. I'm afraid that you may look at me differently. I'm afraid that you may not have compassion for me, that you may judge me, or you may judge that situation or that traumatic event. I don't know. So I just shared my wreckage with you. Just shared my wreckage with you once again. But I'm here now. I decided to do this to let you in, to let my followers, my listeners in my life, to connect with you so that we can connect with each other, because we are truly one and we are in this together, and it is about oneness and togetherness. I don't know if those are words. I just put ness on the end of words and I make them into words. But anyway, yeah, that was very traumatic. We're not talking about, just one night when I was sleeping, someone was on top of me punching me. We're not talking about one night. We are not talking about one night. We're talking about throughout life, throughout my childhood, throughout my adolescence. Okay? As a kid. All right, so now that is post. That's behind us. And y'all like that? You like how I just said that? You like that little joke? That's post now. It's behind us, and that it is post. It is behind me. It is. It happened when I was a kid and when I was growing up. It's still, yes, it happened throughout my adolescence and, things like that. But I was a kid, and so that was in the past. It's post. But the trauma from that, the psychological pain, me thinking so less of myself, I should be punished. I should be punished. It's how I thought of myself. For years, when I made a mistake, I was punished. I'm not worthy of this. These are the thoughts that I had. These are the thoughts that went throughout my head that I so easily was like, oh, nope, suppress that, go drink. Guilt, shame, fear. These are the emotions that were suppressed in me for years. These are the symptoms that I was dealing with. My solution was to run. Run away. Run away and escape. And like I told you in the last episode, now you may understand a little bit more. Why I told you in the last episode, the only thing I could trust was alcohol and drugs, because they were always there. And they didn't abuse me. At least not at that moment. I didn't think so. I felt great. I had courage. All of a sudden, I was a scared little boy. All of a sudden, I had courage. True story. But this is me. Y'all are here with me. Y'all are here with me on the journey. I'm so glad. So let's talk about some of the things, the symptoms that I was experiencing. And truly, even more when I took the time to look inside so that the wreckage could begin to clear. Once I was sober, I could really feel these things. And I could really see these symptoms. That's why I was like, oh, I got to clear this. I need to go see a psychiatrist, man. There's something going on up there. There's something going on inside of me. Wreckage that I need cleared. Let's find out what that is. So we got some symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I want to just say to you right here, if you're listening to this and if you have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, I am with you. Obviously, there is someone here on the other end of this, on this microphone, sharing his story with you, that I am here walking hand in hand with you. We both are on this journey together, and we have hope we can get through this together. Some of the symptoms involved due to post-traumatic stress disorder: intrusive memories, recurrent distressing memories of the traumatic event, check. Distressing dreams about the event, check. Flashbacks, feeling like the event is happening again, check. Intense or prolonged distress when exposed to reminders of the trauma, check. So let's just stop right there and pause for a second. All of those things. So remember, when I was a kid, these things happened to me when I was asleep. I was being awakened by punches to my body, to my face, battered and bruised. I have dreams, not so much anymore because the work and the wreckage is being cleared away. Woo, thank you, God, for that. Thank you that I took the time to look inside, man. Thank you so much. It is important that you take the time to look inside as well, because your relationship with yourself is the most important one. I will have flashbacks. Like those flashbacks, it's hard to, unless you have PTSD, it's hard to explain that part of it to you. But the flashbacks is like, this is going on right now. Yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like the trauma is happening again. All right, so let's move on. Avoiding thoughts, feelings, or memories related to the trauma. Did I? Yes. I wanted to avoid it right then. I didn't want to tell you this. I did not want to do an episode on this. Avoiding people, places, or things or situations that are reminders. Yes. Check. Negative changes in thinking and mood. Check. Inability to remember key aspects of the trauma. Check. Persistent negative beliefs about oneself or the world. My perception of life, my perception of the world, my perception of me, the way I viewed myself was so, had very low self-esteem, very low self-worth. I did not feel worthy of anything, did not feel worthy of love. I deserve to be punished. I do not deserve this. Why are you giving me this gift? And these are some of the things, some of the symptoms that I dealt with. Whew, man. Disoriented beliefs about the cause or consequences of the trauma. I felt that I was the cause of the trauma. I deserved it. That is how I felt all my life. I deserved it. There's a reason why I was getting punched and beat. This person didn't just do this just to do it. There's a reason why. Persistent negative emotions, fear, anger, guilt, and shame. Just shared that with you. Loss of interest in previous enjoyed activities. Yes. Feeling detached from others. Check. Difficulty experiencing positive emotions. Check. Irritability or outbursts of anger. Remember in the last episode how I told you I was a quiet kid? I had my emotions suppressed, but I spoke with my fist. Those were my outbursts of anger. Reckless or self-destructive behavior. This is hard to share about because I haven't shared about it with you yet, but I have dealt with self-harm. And obviously the self-destructive behavior as well comes from using drugs in a manner that I did, in a destructive behavior, and alcohol. But I also harmed myself because I wanted to punish myself. I was feeling guilty or shameful, and so that's what I did. And if anybody else is dealing with that, just know that I'm here with you, and we can get through it together. We're on this journey together. Oh, man. So we got a couple of more symptoms that I experienced. Difficulty concentrating. It was hard for me to concentrate doing things. My attention span was very short. Exaggerated, startled response. I just talked about this. My response to someone scaring me was exaggerated, but it wasn't exaggerated. I wasn't acting, basically. I was not acting. It was real. It was real. I'm talking about a panic, anxiety attack. Felt like I was about to die. My heart beat would jump to like 150 beats per minute. So quick. So quick. Sleep disturbances. Difficulty falling asleep. It's hard for me. It has lessened over the years. Staying asleep. Hypervigilant. On the lookout. So let me tell you something about so both of those go together. The sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and hypervigilance. For me, both of those go together because remember, the trauma happened while I was sleeping. So do you actually think that I sleep? Do you think that I sleep? I don't. Not at night. Not at night. Not at night. No. I've gotten a lot better. The wreckage is clearing. I've gotten a lot better. Trust me. And so for that, I'm really grateful that I have been taking the time to look inside to clear this crap. Difficulty maintaining relationships. Check. Not good at that. Not going to get close to you. Feelings of isolation. Check. I'll isolate myself. And difficulty feeling positive emotions. Check. So I was going through all these things, feeling all these symptoms, dealing with all of them, and they're coming up even more, once I got sober and clean. So I was like, man, let's clear this. Go see a psychiatrist. Boom, got diagnosed with it. Boom, let's go see a therapist. And, one of the things that helped me with psychotherapy is that my therapist started doing EMDR treatment on me. It was something that I did not know about, but she suggested it and we did it. And this type of therapy aims to help me process and resolve emotional distress that's associated with the trauma, with the traumatic memories, allows for a shift from negative to more adaptive beliefs and feelings. So moving from the negative feelings of myself or about the event to just having regular feelings, feeling like a normal person. So that's pretty much all I got for you today. The wreckage is being cleared. The wreckage started being cleared in 2012 and then 2013 when I saw that psychiatrist, and then I started getting therapy and she started doing the EMDR on me. I want to suggest that for anyone that has PTSD, if you're seeing a therapist, I suggest that you do see a therapist. If you're not, go see one. If you need medication, I suggest that you take your medication so that you can clear the wreckage. These are some of the things that I have done because I was told that this is how it clears up. This is how the wreckage clears up. Now, I can fall asleep. I don't have difficulty falling asleep, per se, as much as I did in the past. I don't have difficulty maintaining relationships. I just don't anymore. Because one of the things I learned is that I got to be true to myself. I got to accept myself. I got to love myself. And by doing that, I'm free. I'm so free in my relationships. I can talk about anything with my friends, and I'll be like, I don't care if you judge me or not. Then if you do, you're not my friend. That's how I look at life now. I have a whole different viewpoint and perception of the world. The world is not against me. That's how I used to feel. Now, my perception is I am to be of service to this world. I am of great use to this world. That is my perception now. Who can I serve? Who can I help? Yes. I can concentrate. Yes, I definitely can. Now, as far as the startled response, that's taking some time to go away, but I'm still working on that. I'm a work in progress, right? I'm a work in progress. Learning how to regulate my emotions, to have good emotions now, to regulate those good ones in there, knowing that if I am afraid, if I am in fear, or if I am angry, that's okay, to give myself grace, to know that these emotions now are just, it's information letting me know, hey, why are you scared? What's going on? And, how I was taught to sit still, sit in my feelings, sit still, let these feelings pass. They will. When I'm anxious, let the anxiety flow through my body, feel it, experience it. Because remember, as a kid, I wasn't able to experience none of that stuff. I felt some way. I felt some type of way. I suppressed it right away. If I wanted to make a facial expression about how I was feeling, I couldn't. I had to keep a straight face. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. That's how life was. And I did that with any authority. Any authority. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, you can't express yourself. What you doing? So now my voice is writing. This is how I clear the wreckage. I write things down. I journal. I've written books. I wrote a book called Broken Just Like Twigs. Matter of fact, I'm going to plug it in. Get that on audiobook. Or find a paperback on Amazon. And I also wrote another book. And it's called Screw Your Perception, which I was learning about myself. I was learning about my perception. And all of that as well. And the last thing I want to share with you is how stress, trauma, all those things can also affect the body. So when a traumatic event happens in your life, this is in my book, Screw Your Perception. I wrote this down. I did research. When a traumatic event happens in your life, all right, so your body goes into modes called fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's just what your body does. What happens to the brain is the first thing, and this is according to a doctor, MD Dan Siegel. 2 chemical reactions that happen in the brain during trauma is an acute secretion of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and adrenaline. Adrenaline, which increases the encoding of what is called implicit memory, long-term unconscious memories, perceptual and emotional, procedural, nonverbal, and priming, which could manipulate human behavior. So what is cortisol? And how does it affect your brain? Well, according to Dan Siegel, MD, cortisol in the acute phase could lead to a blockage of the activity in the part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is very integrative to the memory. So we just talked about some of those symptoms, right? The inability to remember key aspects of the trauma. That's a symptom of PTSD. All right, moving on. He goes on to state, cortisol, with extended periods of release, could be neurotoxic to the developing brain, maybe inhibiting growth, but also killing existing neurons. Basically, the hippocampus can become smaller with the increase of the amount of stress. So you can see how my perception, how my viewpoint, everything changed post. That's why it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. The stress that I was feeling and going through is from the trauma. All right. So anyway, just thought I'd share that. That's just your juicy tidbit for today. Anyway, you guys are awesome. You all are awesome. I should say, rather than that, you all are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Again, if you like this episode, don't forget to follow, download, like, subscribe, and share. Share it on your stories, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your social media platforms are. And I will also like to leave you with what I leave you with all the time. Take some time to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear. Peace.